I think most of you were here this morning. I'm not going to repeat in detail what Telesign is doing, but basically to reset the scene, Telesign has been building a business over the years since 2005 with the largest internet properties. It could be better, yeah. Okay. So Telesign has been building over the years since 2005 a mobile identity business with the largest internet properties of this world, helping them to add additional verification layer using the phone number as the identifier of end user on any digital platform from website, apps, and any digital enterprise. Over the year, they've been expanding, as I said this morning also, providing additional context and attribute around phone numbers. So not only allowing and enabling two-factor authentication, but adding context around the phone number to enable enterprises through verification process of their end user to determine whether the phone number was legitimate, whether it was a VoIP number, what type of carrier, the tenure of the phone, and this type of attributes that are now sourced at a global scale, meaning that we are leveraging the network of BICS, that is one of the largest international carriers, having direct access to most of the MNO, MVNO worldwide, and we're sourcing directly information around the phone number which complement the verification processes that our customers are doing about their end users. And then more than that, we've been expanding, and again, as I said this morning, into a more global communication space, as we appreciate that there is a tie link between trust, authentication in general, and communication. So just going through few facts to emphasize on what is the impact of fraud on digital platform and for our type of customer that we're addressing. You all know the scale and the frequency of data breaches to date. It's increasing in speed and in scale, and it has a huge impact on all our customers and all internet properties, as indeed username and password still remains and prevail as the identifier to log in and create an account on any website and apps. Yet it's extremely easy for any fraudster to acquire the credentials of any of you. The combination of username and password is easily accessible for every fraudster, which obviously requires an additional layer of security to make sure that the person that is actually trying to log in, access the account of your end user is legitimate and is not a fraudster trying to enter your account for fraudulent purpose. So obviously, again, something that you all know, fraud is a big business, and we all know the impact of fraud. There's different purposes for fraudster to create fake account on digital properties and website. It can be for phishing attack, it can be for account takeover attempts, it can be just to post fake information, and there's been enough noise in the media around the influence of fake account on big digital platforms. So again, this is a big problem for most of the international internet players today that see a massive amount of fake account being created but already active on their platform, which they need to identify to obviously prevent all the fraudulent attempts. So again, adding phone number, and that's something that all players, large players, have been doing over the years, and that's why this morning I was asking a question about who of you is owning a phone number since here. Obviously, that's been the anchor of the business and the identity that is used by those players for managing all the journey of an end user on their platform. Adding the phone number as a security layer has been very successful in the early days. That started 15 years ago now, but very early, fraudsters have found a way to get anonymous number. It's very easy to get a burner number that is anonymous, cheap online, and you can use that to bypass giving up your actual number and enabling the fraud, which requires, again, additional attributes around the phone number to preserve this environment and ecosystem that has been built around the phone number as identifier. Still talking about the scale of fraud, I don't know if any of you, I mean, some of you I know, but is everyone familiar with what's farming and SIM farms, SIM boxes? No? I just want to make sure I'm not repeating something that you all are familiar with. So I see some now, so I'm still going to explain it. So in some countries, it's actually a huge business. I used to travel for business a lot in Africa, not saying that it's only happening in Africa, but there you see countries where big businessmen are actually managing SIM farms. It's huge in scale. It can be thousands of SIMs. Typically, it's prepaid SIMs that they can acquire at very low cost or for free. And they would activate and they would use those farms, so those SIM farms, to create fake accounts simply, and using a legitimate number, which makes, again, the identification and the verification process even more challenging because those numbers are legit, those SIM cards are legit, and those platforms are accepting during the onboarding, the registration process, all those fake users that then, once they're active on the platform, can create any type of fraudulent activity. Few more facts. The actual data is not the point, but the point is that you can trust the data that is shared by the end user registering on your platform. More than 50% of the data is purposely or not incorrect. So most of you probably have done already or have created an account which fake information, not for the purpose of frauding, but just because you want to preserve some anonymity. And this obviously has implication not only in terms of fraud, but there are also compliance considerations for brands that are interacting with end users on their platform and needs to answer to some compliance and regulation around that. Now, I'm going to deep dive a little bit more in some very specific use cases, but again, increasing in scale and in frequency. Again, is any of you familiar with recycled phone number? I see some yes. So I'm going to take my own personal situation. So I moved to the United States 2 years ago. I obviously had a Belgian number before for a few years, and then I had to get a US number 2 years ago. My phone number was owned by someone else before that had been recycled in the meantime. So I tried to sign up on some new platform. In this particular case, it was Venmo. That is very popular for financial transaction. And my phone number was still linked to that platform because of the previous owner that didn't sign off the platform. But in the meantime, his number is owned by myself. So there are multiple implications. So that once you have a customer experience impact, and we all know that all those platforms are incentivized and seeking for further growth. Growth meaning net acquisition of new users. So not only it's preventing them to acquire new users because the phone number have been recycled and preventing new users to onboard on the platform. It's having a very bad customer experience. I'm supposed to be calling their customer support. Most of those online applications don't have a customer support, so it's extremely complex. I actually gave up. But on top of that, you have fraudsters that are looking for those existing phone numbers that are still linked to some platform but have been recycled, and they get those phone numbers and then take over the account. So what that means is if a fraudster realizes that your phone number that has been recycled and is now offered by T-Mobile or AT&T with a new phone is available, he will buy it, he will acquire it, then he will access the platform where your phone number is still registered, and through two-factor authentication, he will reset all the passwords, get access to your previous account, and can transact. And then obviously you can imagine all the fraudulent implications that this can have. Another consideration which may seem a bit insignificant next to that, but there are regulations. I think TCPA is imposing a fine of $500 for every SMS, marketing SMS that is sent to an end user without the consent. Again, if you gave your consent to receive those SMS and then your number is recycled, given to someone else that doesn't want to receive those SMS that are unsolicited, he can claim it, and then the brand that is sending those SMS is fined for every SMS delivered. I think it's $500, which again, at the scale of those brands can become pretty significant. Simswap, it's again something that is increasing in terms of frequency and in terms of media coverage. You've all seen probably the hack of the CEO of Twitter a few weeks or months ago. That's just one example, but every week there's a new case. We talk a lot about it in the US, but it's obviously, again, a global issue. What that means is that fraudster, again, can take over your account by swapping the SIM. So they would go to a shop. There can be complicity or not within the store, but it's also as easy for fraudster as providing some of your credential, your SSN, or some secret question that again, for fraudster are very easy to know. Then they're claiming having lost their phone or lost their SIM and just asking for provisioning a new SIM with the same number. And by doing so, again, they can access all your accounts by resetting the password through two-factor authentication. And once that is done, they can freely transact on your account. We've seen multiple type of events. Either they're just transacting when there are financial implications, but they can also, and we've seen multiple cases where the fraudster would actually call you or get in touch with you, asking for money to get access back to your account. And again, this is something that's happening a lot. Another type of fraud that we see increasingly affecting enterprises, that was a typical type of fraud that telco are still facing, obviously, IRSF. We see more and more of our customers, even through voice verification solution, being under IRSF attack, which means that the originator of the traffic is generating a huge amount of calls under a short period of time. These are all automated calls. And there's complicity between the originator of the call and obviously the owner of the final numbers, which is usually leasing number from a network, from a carrier. Usually it would be more expensive number ranges as well. So by generating artificially all those calls on a short period of time, then the originator and the terminator can create huge amount of money. And that's a question of minutes, of hours. And usually enterprises don't see anything, and they would just see it the moment they get the invoice, which can be pretty significant. So again, all those are examples of fraud that our customer and any enterprises that has a digital experience or provide digital experience to their end user is facing increasingly and requires more complex solutions to be detected. So that's leading a little bit to the slide I was showing this morning. That I can share the slides. It's basically to highlight the fact that at every steps of the customer journey, the customer being the enterprise customer of Telesign or the end user of our customer, which incidentally are the same end user of the same customers, right? All interacting on different platforms. They're all exposed to different type of fraud or trust requirements that are all different depending on the stage of the life cycle, and therefore requiring different type of solution. And that is really what we're doing by providing identity and trust solutions that are all aligned to the stage and the maturity of the life cycle of the end user. So I'm not going to go in detail through all of those, but again, I can share the slide, and if you have interest for some specific use case, I can elaborate. So before explaining how we can solve part of those issues, just making it very concrete, we're on a yearly basis, and this is again increasing, preventing 500 million fraudulent attempts from our customers. So in terms of scale, it is pretty significant. That's only a small number of their transactions and a small number of the total amount of fraud and fake accounts that are created, but it's to give you an idea of the scale of this type of issue. Do you have any idea of the origin of the fraud, or the most popular origin of the fraud?
What, the country?
Yeah, which country? I mean, knowing that all our customers are global and are running global operations, so they wouldn't be local players.
Lebanon?
For IRSF, for sure, yes. For IRSF, Vanuatu, for sure. So these are like in volume, not in financial impacts, which usually is directly correlated, but the main destination where we are preventing and seeing fraud on all the global platform. Obviously, US is the main market for all our customers that have international operation, so that's not a surprise. So what we're doing and building together with our customer is a reputation score product. There may be, by the way, some patent infringement with our friend from earlier. What was the name of the second place for Chicago? Yes. I mean, they're kind of trying to do a little bit what we're doing. So, I mean, it seems pretty straightforward in a way. What we're doing is scanning phone numbers that are available to us globally from our own activity. So, as I said, we're generating 11 billion transactions on a yearly basis, that most of them are authentication transactions. So that obviously gives us a very good insight and context around the phone number. That again is generated by all the platform, and we can see some correlation between the behavior and the fraudulent behavior of phone number on the different platforms. But we also benefit of a large number of transactions from BICs from a communication point of view. So together we're talking about more than 30 billion transactions a year, globally again, which gives us a huge amount of data and context around the phone number. So when I talk about context, this covers multiple data points. So we would look at phone number, tenure, we would look at the type of device, whether the SIM card is prepaid or postpaid, the velocity of the calls, the international activity of the call, roaming in, roaming out, whether there's a messaging activity, whether it's P2P, whether it's A2P. I mean, there's thousands actually of variables that we're using in the model, and obviously a lot of correlation between each of them that allow us to provide a risk score for every transaction of every phone number on the digital platforms on hand. So that's just an example, again, one among thousands, and I'm not a data scientist, but that clearly shows different patterns. So the first two lines would show the pattern of a regular application call, so it would be voice one-time password with, you can see a duration that is typically between 20 and 40 seconds, which is the normal behavior when you receive a call with the one-time password, and you can see from the behavior of the end user that this call is legitimate. Again, it's one data point that is used. But if you compare that to a robocall, you would see that the distribution here is obviously very different, with a high frequency with very short call duration, which is an indication that the behavior of the end user receiving the call is extremely different from a regular application call. So again, that is one of the indicators to give you an insight that we use in the score product to authenticate or validate a transaction. The same comparison between a regular P2P call, basically, that is a normal distribution of a call depending on the quality of the route, the ASR, and all those parameters. The middle distribution would be an application call, as I said, a voice one-time password. That again, our model can recognize and vet. And the third one is again a robocalling, which again give a clear indication of a higher risk on the transaction. So next to that, as I said, we are looking at behavioral correlation of the phone number, and all of you, again, referring to my question this morning, through your mobile activity, are generating a behavior and a map of the activity of your phone number. So each of you are traveling international, you're calling other phone number, which themselves have an activity and have correlation with other phone number that have their own activity. So again, this whole map of phone number, global map that we have, is also supporting the model in order to not only prevent illegitimate transaction, but also, which is increasingly, if not equally important for online platform now, to detect good users, which is even more important again as detecting the bad user, because it's always a balance to strike for brands that again are seeking extreme growth to make frictionless the process of signing up new user, and it's even more important to make sure that good users have a frictionless experience and that we lower the number of false positives. I'm unable to explain exactly what is the implication of those points, but okay, so in summary and very conceptually, again, what we're doing is basically building a data lake that is using traffic data from communication, CDR, and communication context, application and authentication traffic, and data attributes that we are sourcing directly from carrier, all that being complemented by additional data points that we're receiving directly from some of our customers that do integrate those models as part of their verification process, and obviously want to collaborate in exchanging some additional data points that help strengthening the model. And then what we're doing is building different risk scoring solutions based on the different use cases. So again, referring to the customer journey, a score model for registering a new user wouldn't be the same as the one for doing a credit score for a transaction, or the one for optimizing the context around the communication. And I heard a lot talking about the cost and the risk of fraud for inbound calling to call center, or how call centers need to optimize their cost structure and the way they engage with end user. All this can be captured also by the model, but in a different way, appreciating the different nature of the relationship, obviously. And I think that's it.